at the same time. So go on.
What I was saying was skill trees are all well and good, but they they're not always worth the time to invest.
We
So
don't
let me
know
use an
that
example.
until that's a
Yeah, I
bit of a
know.
hard one to say, isn't it?
Yeah, but let me use an example. Well, I've got two examples actually. God of War on
Uh,
PS4 and Sekiro, which I'm playing right now.
uh,
A lot of the skills really aren't needed, and some of them are just for the sake of it. In both games, and they're both completely different games, but they
hmm,
both have skill trees. 9 times out of 10, a skill tree is just there to give you something new to look at when you press the button after 20 hours,
hmm. Uh,
rather than having I suppose the other thing to compare it to is like an RPG's upgrade tree. You know, like
hmm.
the Sphere Grid in Final Fantasy X or the Crystal Grid in Final Fantasy 13. Those upgrades are more substantial. It's like new spells or more health or something like that. A lot of times, skill trees in games tend to just be like this really restrictive linear upgrade path to give you a new punch or something.
I get what you
Again,
mean, and
I
it
don't mean that a skill tree is bad. I'm just saying that
yeah.
there's always the risk that a skill tree is unnecessary.
Ultimately, not as it's
Yeah,
not something that
and
you
it
wanna
also
you
kind of
have to
proves
look
what I
at.
said,
Mm.
which is that you're fighting to fight more. Because basically, what they said is the enemies drop XP for the skill tree.
Yeah.
But if you never fight anything, if there's no need to fight anyone, what I'm
S-
saying, like if there's unless there's a mandatory skill on that skill tree,
Yeah.
it's something you need for the boss fights or for progression,
Mm.
like movement ability, then my point is still valid that you're fighting to fight more, making fight fun.
Hang on. Let me have a
Which,
quick.
if it was purely an action game, that
Hmm.
would be fine because the whole point is you're fighting.
Hmm.
But let's not forget, Sonic is a speed-based platformer.
Okay.
Yes, he has actions
Hmm.
for defensive reasons,
Hmm.
but it's usually only ever been for the sake of platforming, like homing attack chains and stuff,
Yeah.
or an obstacle to get you to be in the way of the platforming, like in the 2D games where there's a bandit in the way.
Yeah.
It's never been the focus. Even in Sonic Heroes, like yeah, you switch to your power, but it's usually just to get to the next platforming section. Whereas a lot of these fights are just there, if you
I
get what I mean.
I get what you mean. Let me just read the chat for a quick
I'm not
second.
trying to be all doom and gloom. I'm just saying like
I need to
it
read.
does
I was
still
gonna say I
feel
need
like
to
you're
read the chat, but
fighting
go
for
on.
the sake of fighting.
No, I get that aspect. Like I know you don't wanna you don't wanna put more busy work for the sake of busy work. I get that.
Yeah,
Um.
it's the same logic as like putting Korok in Breath of the Wild just so it feels like there's something in the game.
I mean, Koroks are for R&D. Like, if we're using Zelda as an example, at least me personally, I never did all the Korok stuff, but I did think the Koroks were cute, and those who wanted to find the Korok stuff would find
Oh no,
appreciation for it,
there
type
are cute
situation.
and they're
But
it's nice to
let me just quickly
reassure.
read the chat. Otherwise, I'm gonna keep like
Oh yeah, I
I'm
can't
gonna
read the
keep
chat. I'm
stopping
sorry.
and starting, and it's just gonna get a bit frustrating. Apologies. Ben says Sonic is Knuckles now. Game Amadeus says after watching the IGN videos, I'm more open to the game now, but I think we need to see how everything ties together. Also, I hate the idea of having a skill tree in a game like this. FF10 Sphere Grid is how to do a skill tree,
Yeah,
right?
which is what I said.
Oh, okay. We're gonna have to explain that one to me at some
So
point.
in
But
well,
let
I'll do it
me,
later. Yeah.
yeah. Just give me a sec. I need to say things.
Let me
Sorry.
unmute myself. Hold on.
No, it's okay. It's okay. You
That's
can
all right. I want
think.
to read the chat too because I haven't
Ah,
looked at the chat just in Discord.
it just depends on how if people are typing more or less by the point. Like me personally, it's literally everything I said was gonna be in it is in it. I feel like I was corrected. I feel like I was sorry, not corrected. I feel like I was vindicated. I'm not gonna lie. On a lot of the stuff that we were worried about and a lot of the things I wouldn't say predicted, but I'm glad that I was right in this circumstance and right in a good way, and not right in a bad way type situation. Um, there was a few things that I kind of caught on to, which was they said they're gonna have extra not modes. What's the word I'm looking for? They had extra side missions, so you can get from one place to another. They're gonna have races and collectathons and beat enemies. The skill tree, I do understand what you and Amadeus were saying. Sorry, Corinthian and Corinthians in the voice chat and Amadeus in the chat were saying. Um, the way I look at it is you're not trying to get these new moves to fight more. I feel more like it's trying to give you moves that will beat enemies faster. And I can show you a very specific section where that does happen. It is
That's still what I was saying. You're fighting just so that when you press square in 10 hours, you get a different animation.
Yeah, but I'm assuming earlier on you have to plan, whereas as you become a quote unquote stronger Sonic, you won't have to do the drawing as much.
It's not necessarily a bad thing, that idea. It's just in a non-action game, it can feel a bit too much like padding.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say no. I mean, I personally, unless you're gonna get like new weapons type situation, most likely it's gonna be tied to stuff like the light speed dash and the homing attacks, like how many attacks you can do homing attack wise, and how long a duration of an attack can be. Maybe even a strength modifier, very similar to Sonic Unleashed. The question ends up being is how quickly can you understand that in your first playthrough, in my opinion. If it's going to end up being like Sonic Unleashed, where in your first playthrough you don't quite understand why you should have strength and why you should have combat, why you should have health, why you should have all these things, because I want to say as it is, most people when they played Sonic Unleashed the first time around, they play it to beat it. They don't play it with all this experimentation in mind. And I think it's going to happen the same thing here, where a lot of people, it'll take them, for people who are used to one style, or at least the more linear gameplay, more linear platforming speed approach. Most people will want to try and beat the game as fast as humanly possible, because that's what the game implies for you to do. But I feel more like in your second or third playthrough where you're not focused on that so much, I can understand it being like getting your fastest speed Sonic in daytime levels. That's the equivalent you're seeing, because when you see daytime Sonic and you do it right, it's like the most cracked version of Sonic you can get. And you have to put in the time to do it and appreciate it. I feel it just comes down to how in depth that skill tree ends up being. And for certain people, if we're saying it's going to be as in depth as Sonic Unleashed's version of a skill tree, that one's actually fairly simple by comparative, because it was just more like you didn't have to use every.
It's kind of rubbish, because it's like, see what Arma said about skill trees being like you're menuing to get a mod in a game, getting all the skills to get the ones you want. Like if you upgrade, for example, I think it's the combo skill is the werehog, and you can't control which combo you unlock. It's a set order.
Yes, that's true, because it's set by strength, as far as I remember.
No, strength is a completely separate stat.
Sorry. It's set. It's see the way I look. Yeah. Actually, no. That you're right. It's set by combat. Not
in the PS2 and Wii version, where all the upgrades are on 1 meter. So if you want more health, you might have to get a combo upgrade that's in the way that you don't want, instead of just putting money into health. Yeah.
See, there's two ways of looking at it there. The way I look at Unleashed is like, if you want to try and beat the werehog levels very quickly, just put all your stats into strength. Don't do anything else.
No one puts anything into the combos, because of what I said the other day. The combos are just flat. There's no relevance to them.
Yeah, once you know that, so that's going to be the question really, is will there be a strength, will there be a stat that will be very similar to strength? And there probably will be. It's just going to be how break it.
Yeah, we don't know if it's going to be a like Sonic Unleashed style where it's RPG-ish, because they made it very clear they don't want this PG. So I'm thinking more skill tree than God of War or Sekiro or Devil May Cry. It's not. You're not buying stat boosts, except maybe health. You're buying abilities. Same as DMC actually, because DMC you buy health upgrades, but you don't buy attack.
Not gonna lie, I feel like a lot of the games have skill trees shoved into them to try and have the illusion of being mechanically deep.
That's the other thing I was saying earlier as well. It's like sometimes skill tree is just there because it's popular, like God of War.
If I had to wishful think, like if I had to guess what I think the skill tree will be on, it will probably be on existing skills, because there's things we haven't seen in here that was mentioned in the gameplay, like it mentioned from the IGN guy, is first things first. There's a mention of Lightspeed Dash, but the problem is we don't see Lightspeed Dash in the actual gameplay. At any point, we don't see it. Yeah, they mentioned Lightspeed Dash, but
okay. I know they mentioned Super Sonic Well, they mentioned Chaos Emeralds.
They mentioned Chaos Emeralds. They mentioned the main plot of the story, which is there's a bunch of islands, and there's some AI telling you that you need to go find the Chaos Emeralds. That's basically it. Basic storytelling. Actually, if anything, the story is very similar to Sonic Unleashed in that way. But based on that prologue that we saw, it seems more like it's tied towards the idea of the floating islands. If the Master Emerald has, and I'm not going to say I predicted it, but I did.
What, sorry?
Floating islands. I said that Silver, either this game's about Silver or it's going to be about...
To do with the floating island.
Yeah, because
we're in a completely different game world. We're not,
it was saying it was something to do with the wormhole. So my guess would be, so I'm putting two and two together. There was a prologue that was put in the Sega, in the Sonic Central, and and you can clearly see someone that looks like Knuckles that has that was standing behind the Master Emerald. And that confirms basically what one of the theories I had in the last one, which was the two theories I had was this game is about Silver, or this game has something to do with the Master Emerald because there's a lot of materials that are used in that are similar to the Master Emerald's Guardian area. So
just said something.
No, yeah, I'll read it. Don't worry. I'll have a quick read of it. Don't worry. Just to finish my point. But that kind of vindicated me on that one. And the other one is actually before we didn't know Tails was going to be in the game. We only knew about Amy because we heard a voice in the thing. At least that's what I remember hearing. That it was
the rumor I heard is that all the characters are not exactly ghosts, but something has happened to them and they think that it's the energy or something, because there's that bit in the original.
Unless I'm making up stuff, let me in that case let me just rehear it.
Serene it was right from the outset. After flying into a wormhole with Tails and Amy, Sonic finds
so they've just said it here, which is they flew into a wormhole with Tails and Amy.
Okay, so they've probably disappeared.
Yeah, so we don't know where Tails and Amy is during the portion.
You're only playing as Sonic.
Yeah. In the trailer we know we heard Amy's voice, but that was already confirmed. As far as I remember, that they had confirmed it. So they did themselves. So I don't feel like I'm talking about anything that hasn't already been announced type situation. Unless I go crazy, please someone remind me. To sum up all my feelings, game is looking more promising. Need to see more generation style levels and how everything connects. Hate the idea of the skill tree EXP. I actually think we might like the skill tree EXP.
Did I miss them confirming there were going to be standard boost levels?
Oh no, I haven't heard anything about that yet. Oh wait, hang on. I mean, we can check it.
Yeah, because I may have missed something.
AI voice guiding him to collect the chaos. There's no one for Sonic to bounce quips off of. No energetic Crush 40
it just
soundtrack.
Sounds like that the game is going to have these little B sections.
Yeah. So these B sections at the moment is at the moment my only. It hasn't been denied yet. Let's put it that way. It hasn't been denied yet.
Referring to that bit at the start where we saw that thing like creating a path.
Yeah, that was a thing we hadn't seen yet. We haven't exactly seen that in this gameplay.
Everything else is like an extra.
Yeah. So I'm still expecting like some form of B style gameplay that's a bit more concise towards that generation style, but I don't know if it's true. Like, I don't know what that means. If it's like, it just feels more like there's something for it.
All of this is a very intentional choice. I asked Sonic Team
yeah,
head
I'm gonna like I say, I'll wait till I see an unedited clip of the game. You know, real footage with the HUD, so we can see how the game.
I don't understand why didn't they release this first? Is kind of my first question.
Well, we all know Sega's never been the best at marketing.
No, it's not. It's not whether it's Sega or not. This isn't.
No, well, I mean, you're the one who said to me that the marketing team.
We don't know.
Worried about.
We don't know that. Like, I don't know.
We know this has been controlled by Sega.
Look. The only thing I'm gonna say. The only thing I'm trying to ask is I don't understand why they separated the gameplay stuff, put it the way they did, and then.
That's why I simplified it, saying we know that Sega's bad at marketing. This being proof of that.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying anything about their marketing stuff. I just don't know who made the decision. Is all I was trying to ask.
I'm gonna assume it's someone high up.
Yeah, I mean that's understandable. And if they have their reason, I wish I knew that person. That's it. So I can ask him directly.
I agree completely. It feels odd to release the footage without any context, but I still don't feel like this was added a great deal. I kind of wish we'd seen the guy playing, because it is still that recorded by someone in Sega. You know what it reminds me of? You know when a shooter is demoed at E3, you get a shooter trailer and they put the gameplay and they're moving in this very unnatural way to show you.
Yeah, I was talking to Pia Valkyrie about this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the exact same. The way this is being shown is the exact same way shooters are shown, and it's like no, that's not how the game plays at all. And that's why I was hoping this would be, because it said hands-on impressions. I was hoping it'd be a footage of this guy actually playing, even if it was still edited. I was hoping that's what we were going to get, but we didn't get that. So hopefully, it's still on the 7th, but still on the hopefully one of those days will be news every day to figure out at this point. But hopefully at some point we'll see footage from him, but it doesn't sound like it. It's going to keep apologizing for it being a demo build.
Yeah, it seems more like it might be older than we might think it is.
They're trying to control what you see because it's clearly a crusty build and they don't want it to be properly shown because it'd be worse than it already looks from these edited clips. I'm not saying that it's clearly a demo thing up to scratch and they don't want people seeing the worst aspects of it. Which is understandable, you know. It's like imagine if they. I have a feeling if they did do like a completely unedited gameplay trailer, it'd be like the very first Top Gear trailer, where the game just ran like molasses and was an empty game world. The other thing I was going to say, like you mentioned in the video, like you'll be running in a string or bounce into a section.
Sorry, say that again.
So you know I was referring to earlier about fighting for the sake of fighting.
Yeah.
On the inverse of that, like the other side of the coin, what is the relevance of these platforming sections? What do you get out of them to make it worth the time? You know how like, again, they keep saying it's not an open world game, don't sell them.
Yeah, it's an open zone game.
Yeah, which I guess the next should be Pokemon or maybe Metal Gear Solid 5. It technically was open world, but it wasn't. It was just 2 big levels.
Mm.
You know what I
mean? I'm listening. I'm just letting you continue. Yeah. Go on.
But my logic here is like Metal Gear Solid 5 especially. You can go into a level, say Afghanistan, and wander around and find something to do. Now, in that case, you would get resources. You get soldiers, ammunition, equipment that you can use to increase your, mother base.
Yeah.
But in this, like, what do you get from doing these speed sections? He clearly said they feed the enemy gets you experience for leveling up and defeating the big bosses unlocks the Chaos Emerald. But are the speed sections just to break up the levels? We
don't know, because we don't know what this quote-unquote speed section, if there is one. Because at the moment is, like I said...
I mean the specific thing he said in the video. You'll be running along and a spring will bounce you to a foot.
You mean by the weird platforming thing where you'll see
No, this is his words in the video. He said as part of the open zone design, you'll be running around and then you'll see a spring and it will bounce you to a platforming section. That's what I'm paraphrasing, but he said that in the video.
I feel more like it. Hang on. Actually, I think it might be on that section now, so I could just hear it.
Yeah, and my question is why? What's the reason to do them beyond the fun of it? Like. In a standard level-based game, you're playing the section to get to the end. You do your platforming to beat level. This isn't that. This is a random bit of platforming in an open area. So why isn't? I know you picked up this item, but they haven't said what item it is.
Yeah, we don't know what that item does. There's still a lot of stuff we don't know about. And if you're saying that's the question they need to have answered, yeah, you're right. It's what Amadeus is trying to say in the chat at the moment. Go on.
Yeah, and it's like, because they're still targeting the 2022 release date. They said it 3 times during that footage. Sonic Frontier, 2022, it was on screen 3 times. It's still supposed to be this year. We're in June now, and there's like a dozen unanswered questions. I know more about the Harry Potter games you after the interview.
To be fair, though, the Harry Potter game had like an entire state of play with a whole gameplay section type situation, whereas the Sonic Central was more...
My mic cable and unplugged it. Sorry, what I was saying, like, You know that Harry Potter game that's coming out, the Hogwarts Legacy one?
Yeah.
It disappeared off the face of the earth after being announced, and then we got a big state of play focus on it, like February, March, something like that.
Yeah.
And they went in depth, thoroughly showing you what the point of doing things in that game was.
Mm.
So I feel like I know more about this than I do about Sonic Frontiers.
So you mean by you know more about the Harry Potter game than you do about Sonic Frontiers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is like, and this is why I'm being hard on them. They themselves have come out and said they're aiming for really good reviews on this game.
I need to see that, but go on.
Themselves any favors.
No, I get that bit. Like, I do understand. Amadeus was basically saying the same thing. He's not pointing fingers at anyone. No one person makes all decisions. But it doesn't help the fact that there have been many questions and severe lack of answers. It's a catch-22 if it's an early build. Then it's borderline self-sabotage when marketing if it isn't. Then it's concerning for the game's quality on release. I mean, that's true. I mean, it's a lucky thing that they have only announced it as just this general year and not made a specific date for things. Meaning that they could always shift it and it could always been part of the plan type situation. I mean, look at Final Fantasy 16. It had an initial release of 2022 as well, and it had not given a date. But because it had not given a date, it gave it a chance for breathing room, and could therefore change it to a 2023. I think it said summer 2023 at the end of the last trailer for FF16. So
yeah.
I fully expect that to happen. I fully expect it to be delayed slightly. But it comes down to whether or not they want to, like, I feel, and I'm going by what I'm feeling, not what I definitely know is fact. It feels more like they want to get it out earlier because they want to hit the 30th. They want to have the 30th. They want to hit it more towards the 30th and say this is part of the 30th anniversary stuff.
This is where I'm going to make a comparison that you might disagree with, but it's still true. Sonic 06.
I mean, yeah, that's true. No one disagrees with that. But then you can literally say that for almost every game that had come out when it comes to Sonic, and that comes to even the good ones. Even with Sonic Colors to a certain degree, even to Sonic Mania to a certain degree. Yeah, I don't want.
For a fact, they wanted Sonic 06.
Yeah, they did.
They did. Interested in a 6-month delay.
Yeah, they weren't. And if that's, like, I'm happy for them to delay if it helps the game come out at a better state with better communication and in a marketing manner where we can all feel more hyped up about it. Obviously, like I said, from what I'm seeing, for me personally, I'm the IGN first hands-on impressions. While it's good to have context for a lot of it now, especially information we don't have and gameplay that has not been shown in this version of the video, it vindicates me and it puts me more at ease. I'm not gonna lie, but it doesn't relatively change how I already thought about the game. I thought the game has a lot of potential already. I was one of the few in the first camp where it was like I was more frustrated with the presentation than I was with the game itself, because the game to me seems like a really good idea. I think a demo would help get this game a lot, to be honest. It would. You're completely correct, but we were.
It needs to be a demo of real person play.
No, I think it's more of an in-person one. This is going to be a hard one to sell straight out. Yeah. I agree. I personally think that
would be able to decide based on a demo.
Yeah, for me personally,
I prefer to see a real person playing the game.
Yeah, I personally I think that would also hit and miss depending on the person playing it. Like even this one, for certain people, they didn't like the way it was played. Not because what was presented was poor, but
the person who's played this is not. I don't want to say not a real person because it is, but you know what I mean. This is bit footage that's been recorded by Sega with a very specific focus. Like it's not the guy who's running this month of Sonic isn't the one playing the game. He's just commenting on footage that Sega provided. He has got his own hands-on opinions. He has played it.
Yeah.
We aren't seeing his footage. We're seeing their footage.
Yeah.
Yeah. A demo would help.
Yeah.
We wouldn't get our demo before we got footage of a person playing it. Is what I'm saying. So we'd see that, and then we would get a demo that's probably a build after that.
Yeah. I mean, I would probably assume it would be just this demo, but polished, like what we're seeing here, this section of the game. Because I'd be happy to just like if we ever did receive a demo for the game, I'd probably just want it of the first section where I can just run around. If there's no boss levels, that's completely fine. I don't really need a boss. I think what I would need to know is just have a good understanding of the roaming mechanic. How it feels to run around, how it feels to attack enemies, how it feels to do all the things that they're showing here. Because I actually think, what was I saying? I actually think that the problem I would face with someone else playing the game is because they wouldn't play it the way I do. Most even regardless of how open a game is, everyone approaches the game differently. If you look at, we did a demo for Horizon Zero Dawn a couple of years back when that was first done at an event, and there was like 4 or 5 objectives in the game to give you more of an idea of and feel for that game. And what you had to do is you had to complete the 3 or 4 objectives, then you go to the next section, and that would effectively show you when the game ends, because if I remember correctly. But it gave you a good understanding of the environment, how you approach with the mechanic, how you how the controls were between your hands, like the different ways of, like, for example, mounting the mechanical animals that were in the game, or like how you can hack animals so that you could use them to your advantage type situation, and the different controls for that one. Each player approaches every problem, while it's the same problem and has the same solution, still approaches the figuring out part differently. So for me, it's like, I personally want to get my hands on it because I want to personally figure out how I would personally tackle that. And in the same way, if it's open enough, if the objectives or at least the feel of it is open enough, a lot of people will just enjoy it because they can figure it out their own way. If it's railroaded, which is what they're trying to say is not happening here, then it seems more like a lot of people will enjoy it too. They will, instead of going through all the grindy stuff, maybe a player will be like, I just want to go attack all the enemies. All right, cool. You go do that. I just want to go roam around. All right, you go do that. I want to go for a complete platforming experience that does not require me to go on a grind. Is there a way for me to do that? And those would be the sort of questions that a player would normally ask. So that's what I want that demo to achieve if a demo were to be released. I highly doubt we'd get it, but, that's just me. That was a very long tangent. You were going to say something there, Andrew. Go on.
I mean, I've already made my point. I just want to see the skill tree to see if it's a good one. And I'm sure you want to be optimistic or something about the defendant, but
I'm always going to be optimistic. Let's be fair.
That skill tree is one where it's like you need to put health up to get to Sonic can now do a full mid-air spin kick or something. As opposed to just a purely skill-based skill tree like God of War or DMC. There's that sort of skill tree, but you know what I mean? You can go to the shop and you can do what you want as long as you have the orb.
So, there is one thing I do want to check, but if you do want to continue talking, you're more than welcome to.
I want to know what the point of doing the speed platforming sections are. I know you're picking up an item at the end of it, and there's a different item in each of the sections we've seen, so it's like, what for those of it you do? If it's just for some side content thing. You know what I mean? Because it sort of reminded me a bit of Chow Fruits, but I doubt they'd bring Chow back. They haven't brought them in years, and I feel like if they did, they would probably put that up front because they know.
Pierre Valkyrie thought he spotted a Chow. A Chow egg in one of the collectibles. Before.
Like if Chow were coming back, they would have led with that because they know, they have to know, they pay attention to what fans tell them. That's how they got Sonic Forces, unfortunately.
No, I mean, they know. I mean, the Sonic 30th anniversary proves that they know. The issue is more like who is bringing it back and how is it being brought back type situation.
Yeah,
like
feels like the sort of thing. Like you don't even have to put anything about it. You just have to have a clip of a Chow. Like 3-second camera pad of a Chow in the Sonic Frontiers trailer. That's all you need. And that would get so many people interested, regardless of the rest of the game. There are still people to this day booting up Sonic Adventure 2 just to raise Chow.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, I'm surprised that isn't just a mobile game of that right now.
And that's when they're doing these speed platforming sections gets you resources for that.
Imagine if that was the case. Like, just hear me out for a second. Let's workshop this idea a little. It's this prologue shows, that there is something to do with the Master Emeralds and to do with the Guardian, with the Guardian-esque area. I feel like there's a huge. I feel like that's the main element here. Like that's where this architecture is based off of. Everything that we see on to do with Knuckles, that whole area. Now, if they said it was a wormhole, okay, I don't know if they're gonna change that wording later or if it's a mistranslation or whatever. But let's just assume it is a wormhole, and that is still true. I would say there is a huge chance for it to be something Chow related, and maybe this entire game is the different areas that they potentially may have has different Chow elements, so you can actually collect Chow, or you can buy items for Chow. So basically, you know that for some reason, that weird world that you got into Sonic Adventure 2, that for some reason is separate from the entirety of the rest of the Sonic universe. Maybe that's the wormhole we went into. We went into basically the Chow's effective world, because technically speaking, the only time we ever see the Chows is in Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. And
Sonic have to be careful and make sure. Oh no, they're also in the GBA, in Sonic Adventure.
Yeah, in the GBA games, yeah.
But yeah, what I'm saying, you have to be careful if there is anything to do with Knuckles and the Emeralds and the Chow. Careful not to trigger Ken. He's already going after them for the movie. We don't need more Ken action.
I mean, I highly doubt we're going to see anything like that. I don't think we're going to go that far. I think it was just going to be more like, who's the architect of the Guardian Islands? Like, Angel Islands. I keep calling it Guardian Islands, but Angel Island. Who's the architect? Yeah, I think it's just going to have more of a focus on that, like the idea of this quote unquote technology or whatever this item is, because I feel like there's not a lot known about chaos in general, and I feel like we're heading towards that road where it feels more like organized chaos type situation, with, as opposed to the Chaos Emeralds controlling Chaos and making him bigger, it would be like a mechanical virus maybe, that would do that, and
that would ruin the ending of Sonic Adventure 1. The whole point of Super Sonic existing, well, not the way Super Sonic came about at the end of Sonic Adventure 1 was the positive energy of the inhabitants of Station Square recharging the emeralds.
No, that's why would it ruin that? Why would it ruin it?
Because you're saying that Chaos is evil because of a virus and not because of the negative energy of the emeralds.
No. I think the more calm version of Chaos is the good version of Chaos, because that was what was established at the end of Sonic Adventure 1. That he goes away. He goes away. His planet needs him. And if Chaos is an entity that lives in another dimension, it could very easily come down to that root type situation where you can very easily say, right, Chaos has to live somewhere. He can't just come out of nowhere. And he is a water god effectively, so he has to go into an area where everyone comes in. And the only other time was that Chaos had to was an inhabitant of one of the Angel Islands. So if I workshop that idea and say, right, this story has a lot to do with Chaos, the god entity, and therefore also has a reason to have the Chows, because the Chows are also very similar. I don't know if they're established as a similar entity to Chaos, but the Chows are let's say they are the human-like inhabitants that worship Chaos. I think that makes more sense. Like how we have gods in real life, humans to gods. This is Chow's version of God is Chaos. If we say that's our...
The only confirmed thing we know is that he was still the master, and he used to care for them.
He used to care for them.
That's why he goes mental in the flashback, because they get a shrine and Ginger potentially kill Chow, and then negative energy feeds into the emeralds and he informs and the civilization.
I mean, that could still work though. That could still work in this version of the story. Let's say that this is based on there's a tech, because there's always that whole tech versus nature versus technology on setup, and my guess would be, and I'm only going by the very very little we know. I'm literally spitballing, like I'm throwing a dart into the wind here. My guess would be Chaos has been, or a version of Chaos is may have some sort of, I'm going to say a virus is going to be the word I'm going to use. And is, I wouldn't say controlled, but more like split, so that we have to effectively purify chaos by using the Chaos Emeralds. I feel like that's the story being told. If chaos is involved in this story, but it would be something to, it would be whatever this virus is has something to do with the tech of the Angel Islands. That's my guess. That's my hazard on it. That was a bit of a long-winded way of saying it, but that's how I would involve the Chows as well, because I feel more like the Chows can have, like, they live on these islands. They are also affected by things on these islands. Each island has different abilities or like different types of food material that you can give to your Chows, depending what it is. Like there will be a literal Chow garden, a Chow sanctuary, and you can bring all the Chows in one place, and you can do things that way instead. That could be an option. I don't know if it's true, but it could be an option.
Just one completely random, unrelated thing. Those adventure people begging for a remake and never getting it. Same for the Unleashed port.
I understand the adventure stuff, but I don't understand the Unleashed port. I still don't fully understand
It's because it's the only Boost era game not on PC, and it's known for its performance issues, and then the Xbox port happened, which was like, oh, it can move well.
I don't understand why it says 3-2-1. Okay.
It's a 3-2-1?
Oh, sorry. It said 3-2-1 on the it said 3-2-1 on the thing, but I'm guessing it was just to hype things up. My apologies. I'm just overthinking things. It's okay.
Every time there's one of these Sonic news posts, everyone's like, "Oh."
What did you do? Your mic's fixed.
Oh, what did I do? What did I do?
Your mic's like completely fine now.
I saw a thing on my Discord screen, and it was, I don't even know what I clicked on. Oh, I clicked on the arrow next to the microphone, and even though my default is set to the headset, I set it to the headset anyway. Like I manually said, use the headset, please.
I think it may have ended up using the headset itself and not the microphone.
No, it's not got an inbuilt microphone. It's got a jack mic attached. It's not like the PS5 headset where it's got a wireless mic.
Is it a detachable microphone?
It is, yeah, but there's not a separate microphone hole. Like if I take this microphone out, I don't have any microphone.
I think what was happening was it was recording from the speaker of your headphone, and that's what I was hearing this whole time.
I wonder if it was, but the thing is, like I say, it should be. I went into the. Just now randomly talking about.
We can hear you properly now. This is amazing. That was kind of half the problem we were having.
What I mean is, we had last 2 times I've been on Discord playing cards with Elliot, and you said this. I've gone into my settings and it said, input device, microphone, Turtle Beach Recon. I went to Windows Audio and same thing. So as far as I could tell, it was right, but I've gone into this little arrow here next to the mute button, so changed it to it there, which is different to where it is in the general Discord settings. I
don't know what you did, but it worked. So miracles have happened. I'm not gonna lie.
Mistakes into miracles.
So let me try and workshop this again. So yeah. I'm just looking at the footage that we're seeing here. This looks like our main villain, or at least this looks like the main villain of this area. Hang on, can I... See, ironically, the Sonic Central stuff gave us the thing that we wanted to see, which was this. Like, even though we have context, we now have an understanding of some of the boss levels. This is actually very reminiscent of Sonic Forces, but I like it. It's really cool. It's a really cool boss in my opinion, or whatever this is.
Wait, what? Sorry.
Oh, we got to have a close up. Cool.
What's that?
So are you looking at the Sonic Central footage that they posted for Sonic Frontiers?
No, I have your stream paused because otherwise I hear you twice.
That's okay. Just unpause it, but just mute it.
Okay, 1 second.
I'm gonna have to try and cut this footage out and maybe re-edit it and have it at the end of the gameplay footage. Because the interesting thing here is that it looks like you can either one of two things happens in this is that this boss will randomly appear throughout the day, you know, like while you're playing and racing and going around the map.
So on your screen, well, on my screen in your Twitch at the minute, it's that flying road thing.
Yes, that was the. So if we go to Sonic Central and you go around about 9.
It's a very minor thing. I have to say it. Ever since Sonic Colors, they keep doing this, and it sort of bothers me.
What?
It's the Starlight Carnival road appears ahead of you and disappears behind you. It was in Lost World, sort of. It was in Forces. It's now in this. That's different. That's a boss. Okay, fair enough. But the other one, I mean, obviously it was also a boss, but it's basically Starlight Carnival.
I mean, I
feel like there has to be a more interesting way to do it than just recycling Starlight.
I mean, I guess. You mean you don't like the endless run of fights? Because they did it since.
It's more. It's not a fight. It's more. The Starlight Carnival opening was just a set piece. You didn't really do anything. You just watched the path proceed. At least in here, it's a boss thing, but then that just sort of feels like the boss fight of Starlight Carnival, except not on a 2D platform. It's turning, or U-turn, or is it alternate? Again, we need questions answered, but
yeah, I
just don't like the idea of them reusing ideas, especially in a game that's nothing like what we've seen.
Okay, so from what I understand, this boss is meant to be massive. Like I wouldn't say it's a struggle, but it's more like it takes effort to get to the main boss. Like you gotta solve
the thing creating the road.
Yeah, because it gets longer, but then obviously the closer you get, the shorter the road, effectively. Because like when you see it at the start, assuming like this is where it looks like it starts out. Like this looks like a completely different version of. Like, this is also a new weather thing we've seen. So we've seen rain, we've seen sunshine, we've seen sunrise. I don't think we've seen it in nighttime. Oh, we have seen it in nighttime now. We've seen fog and we've seen nighttime now. So we've now seen, like... we've seen rain, sunrise, noon. Now we've seen fog and nighttime in this version of the level. Which is actually really cool. I'm not gonna lie. It's actually very much. It's the first thing. At least it's the first time I've seen it in a Sonic game.
It's also kind of like expected at this point for any. I'm not gonna. It's hard to not use the term open world, and because they're using their own made-up word.
It's just open zone. It's not really that difficult.
But let's not pretend it. I kind of wish they weren't saying it's not open world when it's clearly built like any other open world.
The thing is, I'm more on their side on this one, where it's like, no, I completely understand why they don't want to call it open world, because open world has too much of expectations for it.
What I'm saying is there's nothing to indicate that there's a set path to go on.
What do you mean?
Yeah, so it's basically a big playground where you can screw around and do what you want. So it's an open world without being a gigantic game map. There's several game maps.
We need to figure out whether or not
what I'm saying is,
yeah, go on.
It's kind of expected in games of this nature now to have a weather system. If it didn't have one, I'd have been surprised.
I actually wouldn't have minded if there wasn't one, because I would have expected each island to have different landscaping. That's why I didn't expect it for a game like this, because it's more similar to something like Banjo-Kazooie or Mario Odyssey for that matter, because each zone, or at least each time you try to get a moon, they would determine what sort of level you're dealing with. You don't get like a snow version of New Donk City type situation, so I'm okay with it, personally. Oh, was that you say something? Go on.
Well, again, Mario, I suppose if we compared it to Odyssey then as something similar, the difference is that the level design for Odyssey was also in Mario you expect floating nonsense because it's always looked like that. whether it's been 2D or 3D. Secondly, those level designs were way more natural than this. I mean, look at the. I mean, you also paused on me, and we're seeing this random floating set of platforms that Sonic has stood on.
Hmm.
And I'm sure there's a context. It just looks amateurish.
I mean, yeah. I mean, but it's just gonna come down to, this is why I want the game. This is why the demo, I think, helps on that one. Like when we take anything without playing it, it's a bit hard.
Some questions have been answered, more have been raised. We need to see a real person playing the game. We need to play the game.
Yeah, pretty much. That's gonna ultimately be where it's gonna be. Like we know that's gonna be the main talking point from here moving to whenever the next update is.
The thing is, I still don't think, no matter what, playing the game is not going to change how jarring that looks to me.
It depends. It really does depend. Because I'll give you an example.
I don't agree. I don't think me playing the game is going to magically make me not notice. Like, for example, in the distance, at the bottom of that pause frame, you can see, like, I don't know, a running section, and it just looks odd to be floating there.
No, I agree with that.
Looking odd to me.
I agree with that. It's more like how quickly will we get over it type situation. That's why I don't
think I will. It's going because you're going to be running around and you're going to see them popping in. Well, not loading in constantly, because the whole point is you're exploring. So it's not something you'll get over. You'll continuously see these random mini levels just appear. Not appear, but you'll randomly discover these mini levels repeatedly over the course of the game. If
it's going to be, we say it's popping, but they did try to have more of a more cleaner way of showcasing the grinding, for example. Which is the thing you're talking about right now, the thing in the bottom right corner.
Well, I don't mean popping specifically in the sense of literal popping. What I mean is, you're going to be exploring one of these open zones, and you will come across one of these floating levels. I can't call it these floating platforming sections, and because they're a completely different aesthetic to the rest of the, like, it's not floating grass, for example. But like, if it's using the 2D games as an example, you would jump up and there would be a floating quote-unquote island with more level in it. And it was fine, quote-unquote, because it looked the same. The issue here is you're running through a forest, a grassland, and then there's these stark, floating black sections, and they just look... It looks like someone's made a game... It looks like someone's made a toy box... in Game Maker or something, and you know what it reminds me of? Developer rooms. In games, there's always a hidden developer room for them to test the physics and the controls and such.
Yeah.
And there's random floating sections for them to test certain things out. Ratchet & Clank usually has them in the Insomniac museums. It looks like that. So I mean, that's what I'm seeing in my mind. I'm seeing the Insomniac Games developer room. Yeah. Because it just looks out of place. And I'm sure there's a logic to it. It's going to vary from person to person if that justifies it, but the general consensus I'm seeing online so far is it just looks a bit cheap. I'm not floating sections.
Like I said, I'm not trying to argue whether that feeling is felt. It's more like because I completely understand why and where. I mean, we both did the same degree. Effectively, we know why. But it's like game logic. If we're saying this is a video game, a lot of that logic will go out of the window fairly quickly.
Yeah, but that's why I compared it to its own series. That's why I compared it to like the 2D Sonic games.
Yeah, I know.
Sonic Adventure 1, where you jump. And
I know. It might be more the case of if instead of it being like I think you mentioned that you hit it a little bit earlier, where you said it's not like a floating platform which is like brick and mortar or like a grassland type situation, more like Sonic Lost Worlds, where you have more cartoonish elements like this, whereas this one is like all of its technology, and so you've got that very high contrast between technological things are the things that are keeping these things afloat versus everything that is grassland or focused towards biological will be on the ground. I get if we were trying to explain it like that. My question will be, so this is the problem. Like in the same way Sonic Lost Worlds had that same issue of it is a 3D floating world, and the reason why you can get away with a lot of it was art style. That was the main thing here. Until we see, I would say until we see it in motion, but it's more like until we go from point A to point B where we get to this section. It's a bit of a hard one to say, for me anyway, to just outright say, yeah, this looks not that good. For a lack of a better phrasing of this, it doesn't look that good. They could have done this better, or they could have done this differently.
Itself looks bad. I'm just saying it's like they stick out.
Oh no,
in a good way.
I never said it didn't stick out. Never said that it wouldn't or it doesn't. I get that. Let me be very. We're in agreement here. Let's be very clear about that. We're in agreement on that it does stick out. My case is my counterpoint isn't that. My case is more okay. I understand it sticks out this second. I just don't know how it will be when we play the game, because it may not stick out as much, because either the game elements that once we're in the game flow, it will be either A, easily forgotten, or B, if it's something of a concern, then we'll notice it. That's basically my point, and it will be done through the gameplay as well. Like, it'll be noticeable at that standpoint. But I hope they do, or find like what I'm hoping is that the things to do with like the grindier rail, let's say it's the grind rails example, and let's say this is an earlier build. They tried to show this in some of the platforms, in some of the areas, which was you approach it and then those platforms appear, but they do it in such a way where they appear and disappear.
I think one last thing on this is, in the traditional Sonic games, everything that's come before this, you've never really questioned why the game will look the way it does, because it's been a level, as opposed to a world. You know what I mean? Like, you never questioned why Mario's game world looked the way it did, because you're not seeing the game world, you're seeing a side-on view that's clearly a level. In this case, because you move into an open environment, it then creates this question mark of why are all these Sonic platforming sections here in a world that didn't have Sonic before but have all these weird mechanical monsters.
I mean,
it's one of those cases where what I'm saying is, does the design of the game world make sense? Again, using Odyssey as an example, like New Donk City, again, it's a really good example. It wasn't really that Mario-y. It was just loads of skyscrapers that he was able to jump up by grabbing onto poles and such that would have been normally attached to buildings. Or if we want to use a grass level to compare it to this, we can use Fossil Falls. We can use the jungle level. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me.
Which one?
Gardens, I think, in Odyssey. Again, yes, they had these little Mario sections that appeared, but you had to make them. You had to throw your hat on a scarecrow to make these generic Mario sections appear. They didn't just float there in the game world. Other than that, the game world had this natural flow to it. In here, there is that, but then someone's gone and dropped in these floating sections that don't fit.
Okay,
visually.
So here's probably a good question to ask then. Based on the footage you've seen so far, what does this game remind you of from a past Sonic game? So for me personally, I find a lot of the visual style to be like, I know I love Sonic Unleashed, but it does remind me a lot of Sonic Unleashed, because it's the most out of all the games that have come out today, it has had the ones that had the most real world elements involved in it. And after that would be Sonic 06. But to be honest, I'm so far away from Sonic 06. Like, don't have much nostalgia for that game that I don't even class it as I don't even class it on the same boat. But that's where I would sit, especially with the gameplay style, that it seems more like they are taking elements from that sort of Generation-esque style. Still, they're still using the stomp. They're still using some of the boost stuff. The only things we haven't seen yet is the drift system. And the
I don't think the drift is going to be in. The boost just seems like a way to progress.
I feel like there will be. I feel like there could be a means for the drift system, but we'll just see how that means yet. We don't know what that means yet.
The only reason the drift even existed in the boost games was for those specific sharp turn areas.
Exactly.
I don't think there would be a need for it here.
Agreed. Understandable.
Because that's not the game's design philosophy. It's an open thing. You can just stop on a dime and turn. There's no need to suddenly drift. I'm not saying there won't be. I'm not saying it wouldn't be cool to do that. I just don't see any indication so far that it would be there, because we've seen a lot of footage of him running around.
We've seen a lot of footage of him running around. Not gonna lie, yeah.
And there's not been any indication there that there's not been any indication from that the boost, like I say, what I was trying to say earlier in a simplified way, the boost feels like it's more for traversal than for gameplay. Does that make sense? Like, it's a boost game. The boost is there as the horse. Because Sonic can clearly run without the boost. It's not like, say, Generations Unleashed, where you can run, but you only go so fast, but you need to actually use the boost, otherwise things will go wrong.
I'm still listening, don't worry.
That's basically it. I was basically trying to say, I don't know, I would love to see the boost be fully implemented, but at the same time, considering the way Forza has implemented it, I kind of hope they don't, because they've dropped a lot of mechanics anyway, including the drift.
I hope that they do. I feel I'm hoping that they do find a way to at least let us use, because the thing is, there's nothing quite like drifting on a even on an open world. I feel like there's nothing quite like drifting on an open world type situation, and I hope they do bring it in. But if they cannot, I just hope that it's easy to understand. I think what they've done is they've severely nerfed the boost in this particular playthrough, because it's an earlier build, and I think one of the tree skills will be boosting. I actually think the more you upgrade, I think that will be your broken one, really. Like, how far can you get from point A to point B will just be determined by how long your boosting will be available for. Second will be Sideline, which is, if I remember the name correctly, the Sideline system is probably the only other thing I would probably focus on. Like, how long can you do your sideline for? So the longer your sideline, the more enemies you can attack at the same time. And of course the skills ability, which is how many, can you do quick sidelines? Can you do quick movements that will allow you to finish enemies faster? They would be the ones that I would focus on. The only thing I haven't seen in this game, in this particular, like, the footage we're looking at right now with this particular boss, is we haven't seen them use the sideline, so we don't know how they get there. We don't know how they get to. We don't know how the sideline system is used against this particular boss. My assumption is that you get close, you beat him up, and then he just brings up like a little area for himself, like he is right now, and you use the sideline system to sort of slow him down. Maybe, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm making stuff up. But that's where I would think, if they're not gonna put the basket for drifting in there, which is a bit of a shame. They should put in the drifting system in there. It would be that, either that or just putting. I hope they add something like a quick dash.
We'll see. I mean, we need to see proper footage. I've already said this about 10 times.
Yeah, we're gonna always end up saying that, but I just like the speculation of guessing what we think is gonna be.
But I think ultimately our, not so much disagreements, but our different points of view both come down to the same thing. We need to see the game actually being played. We
need
to see someone talking about the game, not just their opinion of it, which is what I was hoping today was going to be. I didn't realize it was just going to be a guy being paid to say the game. I mean, he didn't. Clearly, that's not the case. Otherwise, you wouldn't have talked about how the game needed more work. Because if you go and read the transcript of what he said, he even said the combat wasn't very good and needs improvement.
Did he say that?
I went back to one of the news websites because I wanted to see, like, because there was things I missed because I wasn't looking. So I went back. They've all said the same thing. Like, the guy commented on the boss fights and the combat, saying that they're good, but they need tweaking because they feel a bit janky.
Yeah, because obviously they mentioned quite a few times that it was an early build and can't really do much else about that one.
No.
Let's have a quick listen, shall we?
that needs the most work. Far too often, I'd fly off the boss's
he
arm
mentions
without
it when
knowing
fighting the
why, or
actual
I'd get to the
Titan,
top and for some reason
not
lack
when
the
looking at
momentum
these
needed to
other
actually reach the head.
large enemies.
Sonic must hunt down and defeat these bosses in order to collect portal gears, which open up portals.
Portal gears. Oh, thank you very much. I don't know what you've put linked in the chat, but
oh, here we go. Let's have a look. Yeah, this is the guy who's been talking on Twitter about he's not the one been doing the footage.
Okay, right. Sonic must hunt down and defeat these bosses in order to collect portal gears, which open up portals that lead to bite-sized linear stages. Done in the style of the previous Sonic games, giving Sonic Frontiers a nice mix of both and new styles. There's my vindication! There's my vindication! Sorry.
What vindication?
Of like the previous Sonic games. So I'm assuming they mean by the boss styles, but I'm taking a wild assumption I mean by boss style, boost styles. So this is probably going to be this is the thing that I'm trying to figure out right now, which is we haven't seen this level. We haven't seen this level that is implied, Sonic must hunt down and defeat these bosses in order to collect the portal gears, which open up portals that lead to bite-sized linear stages. These bite-sized linear stages we have not seen anything for yet. So we have seen the free roaming section, and that's been a combat thing. And we have seen we've seen some of the...
that confirms that the collectibles you're getting from the speed sections are for stat boosts.
Yep.
That tweet.
Done in the style of the previous Sonic games. So I'm assuming that when we say previous Sonic games, we just don't know which one it is. These classic levels each come with a handful of optional goals, like beating your level under a certain time, collecting all the red rings, and so on, which with each goal rewarding you with a vault key, which are needed to unlock the coveted Chaos Emeralds. Okay, I want to emphasize that this point from the preview, because unfortunately
Sonic games, I'm willing to bet that it's the boost games, because otherwise why would the boost be in the game? So I'm expecting...
Okay.
You remember Sonic Heroes?
Yeah.
And the special stages?
Yeah.
I think that's basically the formula, quote unquote. Like, you got the special stage key and you got to the end of the level in Sonic Heroes and you did one of those quote unquote boost stages.
I actually think it's more akin to Sonic.
I don't mean that it's going to be a tube. What I mean is that we're going to see a Generations level, style level as a special stage, quote unquote.
Okay.
So there's going to be 7 of them because there's only 7 Chaos Emeralds.
I disagree with some of those points, but I get what you mean. It was basically we're in agreement, but more different perspectives. So my guess would be I agree it will probably end up being a generation style level, but I disagree that it's going to be a special boss one. I agree that
he says it right there.
What?
You collect the portal gears to open up a portal to sit linear stages to get Chaos Emeralds.
Yes. The thing is we don't know how many of these so he says these classic levels each come with a handful of options
as well, so it's definitely going to be a boost stage.
So my guess would be is more akin to Sonic Forces in terms of their length, which I hope it's not simply the case. I hope they are longer than the lengths that we have in Forces, but because there's going to be less of them than the ones in Forces, because Forces had a crap ton of levels, but they were all short. They were all around about 3 minutes long if you were slower about it. My guess would be is there'll probably be about half as many Forces levels, but they will all be slightly longer so that it feels a little bit more like this. And it's more like ultimately the more of these stages you complete, the better, like the closer you get to getting the what's it called, the key to this vault, and that will get you to the thing. Because I feel more like the key is you have to meet a certain threshold to get the key. That's my assumption here. So that way you don't have to necessarily go for the same boost style stages. In this case, it's more like Super Mario 64, where you need 100, you only need technically, I think, 64 stars to complete the game, but then you unlock more stuff the more stars you get type situation. That's what I am guessing here. Sonic Frontiers isn't just a open... hang on, let me go away. Sonic Frontiers isn't just open zone Sonic, it's a mix of what feels like a very experimental open 3D high-speed action game and the traditional linear 3D Sonic levels, which is basically what I had said in the previous stream.
Okay, I'm going to put my note now. This isn't your review, but I'm going to say, game comes out, and all the reviews say, we love the linear stages, the open sections felt a bit janky because, as he says, they're experimental. Experimental does not mean good, does not mean bad, it just means it might not land...
Yeah. That's what I'm.
Yeah,
that's
so
what this is.
I'm willing to bet every review is going to read the same. We love the traditional levels. We wish there were more of them. And while there's a good idea in the open section, it feels like it needs more work. And then they won't do more work. They'll do a Sonic Lost World and they'll leave it in the lurch, and they'll move on to a new game.
So for me, I'll think it's going to be the opposite way around. If what you say is true, I actually don't think they're going to leave it. I think it's going to be more like it will. Let's say everything is positive, like it's still skewing towards the positive side. My guess would be is some of the mechanics, like I said with Unleashed, will be appreciated over time, and it will appreciate it on a second or a third playthrough, because there are mechanics that you won't get straight away. If the game it does skew towards the positive, I'd expect this game to be doing really well in the speedrunning sections, because this is basically your open world speedrunning game that has people will want to try and Doom Eternal this game, where they just want to like shoot everything and make this the beeline to the end.
Point of Doom?
Yeah, they'll try to beeline it as much as they possibly can, and we'll see it. A lot of people will try to build their own routes for it. We can if it skews, again, I'm going with the idea of if it skews towards the positive when reviews come out, when the game releases, I could very easily expect this game to be very popular amongst the speedrunners, meaning this game will have a longevity that would be unlike other Sonic games, and would have different categories. At least from a speedrunning perspective, I can see it having different categories, like having minimum, any percent, glitches percent, the full run, or even just doing a race with minimal gear. Like that's what I'm hoping for if it ends up being as positive as I'm hoping for it to be. The flow of the game is basically explore open world, solve puzzles to open the map, which is understandable, makes sense. Find collectibles to improve stats, makes sense. Fight world bosses to earn portal gears, makes sense. Use portal gears to unlock linear levels, complete linear Sonic levels to unlock Chaos Emeralds. Okay, cool. Yeah, which is basically what we expected. From what I've played so far, it's a very solid gameplay loop. There's obviously a lot of work to be done, as I talked about in the preview, but I think structure-wise, Sonic Team has something with Frontiers. It just needs a lot of polishing. That's the main key, which is basically it, really. The main part will be this last bit. Just this last bit. It just needs polishing up. If the mechanic is there, then mechanic is there. They don't need to make this worse.
The thing is, Faz, polishing takes time.
Polishing does take time.
Let's you know what? Let's use a good comparison. Currently in development game Final Fantasy 16. We all saw that trailer the other day. Looked finished. The OGP said it's finished. They're just spending the next year polishing it up. This doesn't look finished, and it's out this year.
We don't have a release date yet. Remember that.
It's out this year.
It's expected to be out this year. Yeah. Understandable.
It got delayed into next year, and it already looks done. This is out this year. It looks unfinished.
Final Fantasy.
Again, it's an early build, but it's the best comparison I can use right now, because they're both in development games. So, and as far as Yoshi is concerned, what we're seeing is a development build, but he's called it finished, and they're just spending the next year polishing.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Final Fantasy 16 is going to be a much bigger game. There's going to be more polishing to be done, but we're still talking a fair bit of time, we don't know the build date for this build. We all know the Sonic 06 story. The demo that people got before the game came out was a newer version and performed better than the actual game on the disc. This could be a build from March or even earlier, because we don't know when this footage was recorded either. Never mind when the build is from. But let's assume from now they've got 5 months before it gets to the end of 2022 to finish the game and get it ready for gold. Maybe a day one patch with some last minute bug fixes, etc. It's not a very long clock.
I understand. I want to go with a more.
I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I'm just trying to say, gauge your expectations. Don't just magically assume the game is now going to be fine.
No, I know. I know, but you're telling the wrong person. I know that. But I understand you want to say it out loud so that people hear it.
the amount of times we've seen a game delayed for 3 months just to polish up a little thing, and that's a game that looks ready to come out.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, yeah. I mean, like
Again,
I said,
we don't know when this footage is recorded. We don't know the date that the build is. So there are factors we haven't got the information of to guess at.
That's the main problem I have.
That's why I want to see a real trailer.
Yeah.
Not something recorded by someone who's clearly gone on a script. You know, he's got some instructions that say, "Do this puzzle wrong, then do it right. Do this spring section." You know, I mean, I said it earlier. I already said it. This is being played the way a shooter game is played in a trailer. I want to see a real trailer I want to see a real trailer, and then I want to see real gameplay from a real person with the HUD from a newer build. If the performance is better, if the pop-it is better, I'll put all this to rest. I'm just saying we haven't even seen the generation levels yet.
Yeah, that's the things that I feel like is gonna end up being like the main issue. We'll go around. Obviously, we'll go around in the circle, but it's more like how many times.
It sounds to me, based on what this guy said in these tweets, they're hub worlds, but not hub worlds the way you would think of a hub world.
Yeah, it's literally what I thought they were. Like a lot of what I'm reading, literally, I haven't been following this guy. Like his name is Mitchell Saltzman.
It sounds like
I haven't been. Like I literally said this from the first. I think I literally said this from the environment gameplay trailer, and I feel like I was, at least based on what I'm hearing response wise, especially when from your end, I feel like I'm the only one who thought like that. That is like, this isn't everything. This is clear. There's clearly a lot of information we don't know.
I mean, even without knowing what he said about the generation style levels, we knew there were going to be other areas to see. We were clearly seeing the what's it called? The plateau in Breath of the Wild. We were clearly seeing the plateau of the game.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm feeling here. This is what this is. This is what I'm hoping. Literally, that's it. Like, I can't explain it any better than that. And I said this last time too. But a lot of it will just be repeating myself at this point, because in a sense of I felt like this was the case, and it's starting to feel like everyone's at least based on the realization you're having now. It feels like finally people are starting to see it that way. This was always the plateau. This was always meant to be presented in that way, where it's like, it's meant to give you an idea of what the rest of the game.
I don't mean it's exactly the plateau. This is clearly Island 1.
Yes, exactly. No, exactly that. It's exactly as you've seen it.
So
yeah.
If we were going to continue with the Breath of the Wild comparison, this is more like the plateau plus the immediate Hyrule field around it.
I would say this is straight plateau. Like, we haven't seen all the rest of this island. That's kind of the main problem here. And like you've said earlier, we haven't seen these quote unquote old classic style levels, because classic style levels could also mean, 2D levels and 2.5D levels. We're assuming it's the boost system, but we're just gonna, until we've seen the footage, I'm gonna hope it is, as opposed to assume the worst. My point here is, this is more of a showcase of what could potentially be in there, but this is done in, like, for me, the presentation is where I'm having a lot of the problems for it, because when the plateau was first introduced, we were literally shown the plateau and what you could do and where you could go. We were literally shown the first mission, which was go find the first spire. And part of finding the first spire was you ended up going to see some of the mini games, the shrines. And even then, not everyone completed the shrines. Let's be fair. So that's what I'm finding to be the main problem. But the difference between that and this is that is a open world game. That is a very open world game where there is a lot to do. Whereas here there is a lot less that needs to be done type situation. My guess would be in each one of these islands there's about 5 or 6. Maybe you know what, I'll go and take it. I'll say there'll be 7 in each island of these boost levels. Assuming there's 7 times 4. Sorry, 7 times 7, how much is that? 30, 36, 42. No, that's not. That's bad maths. 35, 42, 49. 49 levels. That's wishful thinking, but that's my assumption here. And this first one is meant to be the best indicator for that. Like, this is meant to be this sort of idea of what this whole feel and so on and so forth is meant to be. It's literally meant to be the plateau. I just went through the whole thing again, but you get my point. Yeah, go on, Andrew. Did you die?
I agree. I don't think it's fair to just dummy it down to being the plateau, because the plateau was the tutorial. I'm sure there will be a tutorial section, but this is clearly the first zone, quote unquote.
Yes, this is definitely the first area of the game, and not even the plateau did have story relevance and significance in the game. You barely ever return to the plateau, but the difference, but it's like you said, this is more part of the first part of the story, and this is not even including if there's like a twist in the story, a wrinkle in the ending, where this is only one part of the game, and we might get a second part of the game with like they did with Sonic and the Black Knight and Sonic and the Secret Ring, where like midway through, turns out you've got to do the whole thing again because there's a plot twist, there's a new villain, and it turns out it's the person who was your best friend the whole time. That sort of thing. So there's still that little wrinkle to consider.
Have we even seen Eggman yet?
No, we've not seen anything to do with it. We've not even heard a mention of Eggman yet.
Was he in the CG trailer?
No, he was not in the CG trailer.
Alright, okay.
We just know there was some things attacking him. We've seen this is actually literally the first proper enemy we've seen in the game that gives us some idea, but we don't even know if it's even like related to Eggman. It doesn't look Eggman related. We just know it's tech based. And there was a mention of an AI. That's all I know. So if there is a mention of an AI, then that I don't know if that would say that gives you an indicator of what to expect, but it gives you an idea of what you might see next. Oh no, that I was gonna say, oh no, there's gonna be some cool stuff. Like, just imagine for a second. It just kind of proves. The only question now ends up being is what does Tails and Amy do in the game? Like, this is the closest up you can get with this particular boss, and it has no real discernible features, like any sort of it doesn't have any sort of like eyes or like discernible
yeah, I mean, these are clearly not Eggman robots because they don't have any. I don't want to say they don't have any personality, but they don't have his personality.
Yeah, but that's the other problem, is that it could just as easily be because some of the other badniks.
I think it's more assuming Eggman is in the game, and that'll be the big twist that he's there all along. He'll be in control of these things somehow. Like, he's discovered this place, or maybe they were chasing him through the wormhole or something. We won't know until months from now.
Yeah.
But maybe he's taking control of these things.
The only thing that I didn't see mentioned in this trailer was mention of Knuckles. So that's it. Like,
the theory was that all the characters have been ghosted anyway. Not all the characters, but the ones that have come with Sonic.
So
because you hear that voice of Amy's in the trailer, but she's not there, as it were. But there's like a pink glow from his new boost.
Yeah, but I highly doubt it's got anything like the whole the Psywire.
Ignoring the boost bit, she's definitely a voice in that first CG trailer. Communicating with him somehow. So something has happened to Amy and Tails, and probably the same thing that's going to happen to Knuckles.
Probably.
But until we see the game, we won't know for sure. But it definitely confirms no other playable characters, and that was something that people were asking about for a while. Like, are we going to see someone else be playable if it's a new type of game? But
yes, let's see Silver being playable in this game.
Not only is it still keeping a generation's gameplay style, it's this new style as well. I don't think there's room to do anything but maybe a shadow skin swap.
I mean, if there's if there's a shadow skin swap, I would still be happy with that. I'd be happy with that.
And it won't be like you're actually. It won't be like episode Shadow from Forces where you get some dialogue. It'll just be a cosmetic, I would think.
I think it will be a full-on model change because I don't think it would take that much effort. It's just gonna come down to.
I don't think there's going to be any dialogue associated with it. I think it's gonna be something you unlock for the funsies.
I mean,
the real question is now they've said Chaos Emeralds.
Yeah.
And they've been very good about it since Generations, and I think Unleashed as well. But I don't remember. Definitely Colors use of Supersonic in the game.
I hope Supersonic is in the game. Supersonic needs to be a playable aspect of the game. I mean,
definitely Colors, Generations, and Forces did it, and Lost World did as well.
Complete.
And this guy said you have to unlock Chaos Emeralds.
Yeah, you have to unlock Chaos Emeralds. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
My hope / theory is we're getting a Sonic Lost World style thing where you unlock the Chaos Emeralds by the end of the game. It might be more plot related here, like Unleashed, where you need them for the final boss, but then you can use them. But I'm going to assume it'll be like Boost Supersonic, like you can't fly around. You can just you're basically just stronger and faster and invincible.
I mean, if it helps you beat things, if it helps you beat some of the mini games or the mini things faster, that would be another option for you too.
Well, it sounds like the mini game things are to unlock Supersonic in the first place.
Yeah, you need. Sorry, the mini stages.
Keys, which reminds me.
Sorry, say that again.
Yeah, you mentioned Vault Keys, which reminded me of Generations, where you had to do missions to unlock keys to unlock a boss fight, which unlocked an emerald. In this case, you're doing the level to unlock the key to unlock the emerald.
I feel
it's the same idea.
I feel like there's a lot of. It sounds like there's going to be a lot of replay value, at least in a positive way.
Until I don't think I can say anything that I haven't already said until we see some real footage.
No, it's completely fine. I like it when you do talk about like things you hope to see and ideals and so on and so forth, because it's just then it gives me a new perspective, like a new idea. Go on.
The only risk for putting Supersonic in is you have to account for that in the design of the platforming sections. Like, if you can just completely overshoot a jump because it was never designed for Supersonic to be there, then there was no point playing as him.
I mean,
in the 2D,
I don't mind breaking a game with Supersonic.
It wasn't as much of a problem, if that makes sense.
What if it's that you just have like you can bypass stuff? So, for example. Because the thing is, you still need 50 rings. You'll probably still need 50 rings to unlock Supersonic. And by the judgment of how many rings we've seen, there's actually the rings are very sparse in this game.
I was about to say that. Have we even seen him collecting rings in this?
You have seen him collect rings, but they were mainly more indicators to show you where, like grindy parts or springs were.
Pretty quickly.
So
a bit concerning.
They are in the game, and I actually think it's better that way because it means that you hold on to those rings for dear life. Because the only other way you can collect rings is probably going to be through those mini stages. I think that's a good thing because it levels your life a little bit because. But it does mean that you won't lose. I think that might be another ability, how long your rings will last on screen before you lose them. So I think that's the way they've kind of... I feel like that's how they're going to try and build difficulty by... You have to upgrade your quote-unquote Sonic so that you can survive longer in a fight type situation or last longer in a fight. I wouldn't say it's like Dark Souls, but definitely gives you durability where you wouldn't otherwise.
I was kind of put off by that tweet mentioning you are upgrading your stats because that implies that let's use Sonic Unleashed as the comparison because it's the other Sonic game with an upgrade system that has stats. In Sonic Unleashed, it's a completely free-form upgrade system. You can choose what to upgrade, what to spend your XP on. If you want to make Sonic go so fast you die as soon as you press the boost button, you can do that. But skill trees tend to not be as open. There's always a start. You tend to need to unlock skill X to get to skill Y because it's a tree. It's not a mess, if that makes sense. It's not like it's not like okay. The other comparison here is the DMC system where you can go into the shop and buy whatever skill you want. That's not a skill tree. That's a skill shop. A skill tree is usually a very clear. linear progression of upgrades.
Mm.
So if there are stats, that goes back to my problem of you need to buy health to get to a light speed dash. What if you don't think you need health? What if you just want the light speed dash? Then you're farming experience just to get the light speed dash. It goes back to my thing about fighting for the sake of fighting. And
Yeah.
why I need to see the skill tree before I can judge properly.
Yeah, I know. It's something you're worried about. But what's your ideal? What's your ideal here? That's the question I'm trying to.
If
I
they're
want
going
to
to have stats on the tree,
Yeah.
stats need to be on their own tree and not affect any other upgrade.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a fair one. I think it's going to be a fairly simple one as well, because I think the way they did it in Sonic Unleashed was a fairly good one, with the exception of not knowing what everything did beforehand. Like, it's great
if they just reuse that formula, where there's like a health tree, a speed tree, maybe.
I don't think there's going to be a health tree. I actually think there's going to be very little.
You know what I mean? Like, a stat tree, an action tree, and a combat tree.
Yeah.
So the actions would be like light speed, dash, stomp.
Light speed, like that would make sense as long as you get those abilities straight from the get go, so that.
And then the combat would be like an improved side loop, stronger homing attack, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's
abilities. And then the stats would just be, you go faster, you have more health, you can hold more rings, or you retain more rings, something like that. You know what I mean? I want the stats to not stop me from getting a quote unquote good upgrade, a necessary upgrade.
Yeah. I don't think. Well, I feel like it doesn't seem like the game will stop you from doing that. I feel like there's a lot of this to do with.
To see the skill tree. We need.
I understand that, and I'm hoping that it is exactly what you say at this point. Like it's pretty much the ideal system, and it's a game for kids in the end, but it would make the whole life easier.
It's not going to be too complicated. And the best way to not complicate things is to separate them into the types of upgrades they are, instead of having it be like, for example, again, we'll use God of War, we'll use Sekiro because they have skill trees. There are certain skills on those trees you can't get without getting 1 to 3 of a skill further up the tree, or sooner up the tree. For example, like to get, say, the super axe attack, you need to have gone through all the other branches to get to it. And it's the same in Sekiro. To get this super amazing sword attack, you have to have gotten all the other skills. Even if some of them are useless, like you can now hold 1 more weapon use item, and it costs 5 XP, but it only costs 1 to get the skill you're actually trying to get to, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Like, the way to make it kid-friendly is to simplify the trees. Stats, actions, combat.
Stats, actions, combat.
Yeah. If we are going to have to upgrade stats, it needs to be its own dedicated tree that doesn't stop you getting to anything else. That way, little Johnny Lunchbox
little Johnny Lunchbox
about a complicated build. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He doesn't have to go online and say, what is the best MLG game build for Sonic? And he can just pick what he wants.
I mean, I don't think Johnny Lunchbox will have any issues with. Will probably be asking those questions to begin with. He just wants to go fast, and most first time Sonic fans.
That's the other reason you want to keep the stat tree separated, because if they just don't care about the combat and they just want to press square and go wee, they need to go through the stat tree and get more speed.
I don't know why there's a lot of this that reminds me of Sonic Adventure. Anyway,
it's the floating levels.
Maybe
Sonic Adventure's main strength was its big. I want to, for the time, big open, like Red Mountain. Remember Red Mountain, the volcano level, and it's this quote unquote expansive for the time, for the technology, for the era. It's this big wide level. There are a couple of corridor sections, but like the start section, which is Knuckles' section when he comes to it. Windy Valley Section 1, again, is a similar idea of what I'm trying to get across. But you could just run straight to the tornado, or you can jump around to these floating optional segments of Windy Valley Part 1.
Does anyone else have
the same in every level, because you get to like Emerald Coast, and that's surrounded by water, so you can't really do anything there, or Lost World is a bit like Act 1 and Act 2. You've got your puzzle section and then the actual level where you're running through the snake and stuff.
Yeah. I'm wondering, what was it? There was something that was like really reminding me of Sonic Adventure, and I can't remember why. I was gonna kick myself when I find out what it is, but it's just frustrating.
Either way, I'll stop taking up your time because you probably want to actually start playing a game because it's 7 o'clock.
I mean, it's 7 o'clock anyway, which I'm more than happy to continue talking about it because it's a lot of like it's nice to be able to talk to someone on in real time type situation. I think the only things that I would like everything, it just feels more like for me it's a bit dumb because for me it feels like I was right about a lot of things, or at least a lot of the things I had thought was going to be the case did end up being the case type situation. And if I feel like the crazy person, that's what it is. It's like, so far I've not had a bad track record with this. I do believe that there's going to be adventure elements in here, which we are already seeing with the like the going into one level, but there's multiple goals. Like you can do many things in it. You can just finish the goal, which has been in Sonic games for a while. Let's be fair, but it's been there since Sonic Adventure 1. And the things that I am hoping to have answers for right now is it's a bit frustrating. That's my biggest thing at the moment. Sorry.
You cut out for a second there. Say that again. You're hoping for what?
It's a bit frustrating for what I'm hoping for, because information wise, it's like what everybody else wants. We just want concise information. That's kind of where we're stuck at, because we're getting drip fed to the point where it's hard to understand what we're seeing. Like, for example, the footage that we got in the Sega Sonic Central, I felt like that is what I felt we should have got today from the IGN stuff, but we didn't get that. So the question ends up being, how do we get that? Like, for example, there's a bit in the tweets where they said fight world bosses to earn portal gears. We literally just saw that, but we saw that in the Sonic Central sneak peek and not in the IGN sneak peek. So
no, we didn't see him fully killing the boss, but when he destroyed the feat in the other sneak peek, we did see it drop some sort of unique item.
Yes, we did. But this is literally...
This is the only...
But this is literally it. Like, I feel more like... Because we actually see that gear that gets dropped twice. The first time we see it get dropped was during the combat trailer. And he literally hit him with the feet. Like, he literally attacked the feet and it dropped the portal gear. Or at least a portal gear.
Some sort of counter.
Yeah.
Are you ready for... I wonder which time, because they said it's more of a parry. Then the parry seems to be the thing rather than the dodge. So I suppose DMC Sonic.
I said this, but nobody believed me that there was a dodge system in there.
I don't think I probably wasn't listening at the time.
Yeah, there was they added a dodge system in the combat trailer. Again, it was a brief thing. They only showed it once, and it was during the section where you go down the upper slope and he's attacking 3 characters. It's literally the last thing he attacks. He waits right in front of him just to do that one movement, but he only shows it once. Whereas every other thing, he kind of shows the variety of different ways you can attack an enemy, which is a good thing. It's just a case of, because we didn't have the IGN trailer first, I feel like we should have had the IGN breakdown first, the preview first.
I think everyone agrees that this has been done backwards.
Yeah, so it seems
a
bit...
The IGN trailer and then the audio-less footage for you to analyze it yourself.
Yeah, exactly, because then we can really deep dive into it, because we haven't got like a trailer like in the same way that Street Fighter 6 got a trailer, and I think that's what's causing a lot of the issues, is because we don't have a full understanding of what we're actually looking at. The IGN trailer would have been, the IGN hands-on would have been a great understanding of clearing up a lot of the wording. For example, open world is the word that's everyone using, but if they had just said they were using open zone from the start, it would have been far less issues.
That's more a problem of developers not doing a good enough job of explaining the difference between a game like Pokemon Arceus and a game like Breath of the Wild. Open zone is clearly a marketing term.
Yeah, because it's trying to say it's
not.
because you either have one or the other right now, and to be honest, I actually think this is fine.
So you wouldn't call a Mario game an open, because they don't call them zones in Mario, they call them worlds. So, and you can't call it open world because it's not open world. I prefer the term I used the other day, which was expansive environment.
Yeah, I just think that's long.
It's open world because it's not necessarily that you can go anywhere and do what you want. It's just that you've got a big expansive place to play in.
Are you sure you don't want to say it yet? I'm just waiting for you to say it. Really.
Say what?
Expand on.
Oh yeah, no, sorry.
I'm sorry.
I accept that completely. I don't know how I didn't even catch that.
Like, I was like, that was the first thing that came to my head, because it's just like, oh, all right, yeah, expansive dog. Sorry, go carry on.
But yeah, no, it's just one of those cases where this style of game has technically existed since the N64. Not Mario 64, but Banjo-Kazooie definitely, where you have a level and you can do the objectives in any order, but it's not open world. It's
open objective.
Yeah. And then unfortunately, then you've got games like Breath of the Wild. I don't even know what the first big open world game was. Was it Assassin's Creed? That doesn't sound right. No,
if we're saying open world as in like you can go wherever you want, it probably would have been like an Elder Scrolls game or a Fallout game.
There was a game that got the term into popularity, and then everything.
What, expansive environment or just open world?
Open world suddenly became everywhere. Like, not
there's definitely a lot of them, but Breath of the Wild definitely.
It's not a term I heard as much before the PS4. Basically.
Yeah, because every game wants to be an open world.
There probably are PS3 games that are open world. I think it wasn't as common.
And
I mean, something popularized it, and everyone sort of forgot that there were games like
GTA 4. It would have been GTA 4. If it was open world, definitely GTA 4. Because GTA 4 has always been an open world game. It was just more like how wide and how expansive that really is
and
dependent.
I feel like that sort of created this misunderstanding about the difference between a game like Mario Odyssey, for example. Again, another game where it's just a big playground. Not necessarily an open world, but
I call that open environment, but you're right, expansive environment, expansive.
There's a very clear edge to each and every one of those levels.
Yeah.
In the same way here, there's a big ocean surrounding this island.
Yeah, exactly.
And Sonic can't swim.
Yes.
Whereas Breath of the Wild, there's an edge to open world games, but it's not a death edge; it's a literal wall usually.
Yeah, exactly. Usually, with Odyssey, it's definitely a death edge because you go from point A to point B.
Odyssey and Breath of the Wild is the Breath of the Wild's game world edge is a wall telling you this is the end of the game world.
Yeah.
But the edge of Mario's levels are death pits to tell you don't jump off, you're gonna die. Go back to the level and continue exploring for moons. Pretty
much. But I do appreciate what Odyssey, like, I feel like that's where we're seeing a mix of right now. We're seeing a mix of it's, if anything, it's more of like, if we're being really honest about it, it's more similar to Mario Odyssey than it is to do with Breath of the Wild. It just happens to be that Breath of the Wild is the best example of a environment where it feels, and I'm putting the main word there, that is the operative word there, feels like a environment where you can go walk around everywhere in. And Mario Odyssey never at any point felt like an open world game. It just felt like a game that you have more room to play with, if that makes any sense. And that's where I feel like it's happening here. If like the way my brain works with this whole open world thing, I mentioned it before, but if I haven't been clear about it, I'll mention it now. It feels more like the issue that they had with previous Sonic games, especially with Colors, Unleashed, and Forces, if they were considering them as problems, was that they didn't have enough track to play with. So an open environment makes a lot of sense. You can boost as much or as little as you want to, and you can clear that area in about the same amount of time. But the difference is you can go round. You can make as many laps as you want to, and you're not tied down for these things. And if they make that environment interesting enough, then what we have here is very, very interesting, because you can boost, you can do all the cool skill stuff they want to add in. They can add in as many bosses or as little bosses they want. They can add in little puzzle elements that allows you to go search around the areas. It's actually a really good idea. The only downside to it is if people want that super concentrated linear experience that you get with a boost style level, and that's now going to be where my next concern comes in, is how does that level play? We know that not all of them are going to play as good as the other, but personally, I want the levels to be as good as Unleashed. I want the levels to be as good as Generations, and I want them to be as good as Colors. I don't want them to be as short as Forces, even though Forces had some good ideas.
I think it sounds more like, you know how Forces had those like extra levels that were challenge based rather than
that's what it was. Like that's what
the way that tweet reads sounds like that's what it's going to be.
Yeah,
I mean, you're still going to have your rings, but then you're going to have the replay where it's going to sound like these Forces extra missions.
Yeah, Forces had the issue of the levels were too short. That's what it was. Like I didn't mind the ideas that Forces brought in if it didn't feel like I couldn't actually enjoy my time in that run. Because by the time I started to enjoy it, the level ended, and it was just more like, oh, it's ended. Whereas Unleashed and Colors did a really good job of building up those levels to really appreciate the time you had in those levels. And that's why I'm thinking that's where my feelings are now going to turn towards. Like that's what I'm wanting information of next. So the question now ends up being for you, as I know you want the skill tree stuff, but what is the next thing you want to see about next? What is the next thing you want to know about? Do you want to know about the story? Are you like me, wanting to know about these daytime stages?
I don't care anything about the story because the Sonic writing's always been atrocious. I mean, I know this one's being written by Ian Flynn, so that's fine. I only care about the gameplay.
Okay.
I want to see these quote unquote classic style levels, whatever that means. I'm going to assume Generations because the boost is in the game, so I'm not expecting it to be adventure style when there's already an existing mechanic in the game.
Oh.
I want to see the skill tree to see how it works. I want to see the HUD to see if anything that Sonic is doing has a recharge.
Probably the boost has a recharge, definitely. I think the boost will have a recharge.
I'm not a huge fan of those Sonic is in midair doing an action moment in the combat. You know, like he does that.
That's probably how you do recharge the boost, you know?
No, but like, for example, he kicks off a thing, then he goes whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. But why? You're not hitting anything. Same for that. It's a bit silly, but he's doing that rapid flurry of kick beams, and it's like, can I not just do that up close?
You can. They did show you can do it up close, but the problem is.
What I mean.
Or do you mean by like actually in contact?
If you get what I mean.
Say that again.
It feels a bit too much like a QTE in that you're pressing a button and watching a thing happen rather than you.
You don't know if you're mashing it or if you're.
And again, that bouncing around still feels pointless and visually jarring. Like, is it you're constantly getting your viewpoint, your center changed because the camera angle when he does those dashes keeps changing to show him off at a different angle because it's clearly a cinematic thing. Yeah.
My guess would be well, no, yeah. So your main ones is you just want to know about everything else. All I heard was I want to know about everything. All right.
I want to see a proper demo of the combat. I don't want to see this scripted nonsense. I want to see the combat.
Okay.
I want to see a real person doing it and showing me how it works.
Okay. Right.
I want to see a reason to do it for a start beyond the skill tree, like all these dumb, really drawn out actions.
For me, it's like, for me, it's more like I don't find them to be too much of an issue because it's more like, am I gonna actually use them, and will I personally find them usages? Because you'll find a player who will find usage. It's more of, for me personally, will come down to I think they'll be fine from a visual standpoint. I think they'll be fun to look at. But I've already expressed what I said I'm looking for, and you said what you are expressing to look for. Let me know in chat if you are looking forward to something. But I think that kind of concludes everything I want to talk about in terms of this. I might come back to this again. But if you do see any more tweets from what's his face, or about when we're expecting the next drop of news, the next drip feed. Actually, we're expecting the next drip to be Thursday, because on Thursday we're gonna see. We know that Sonic Forces and Soul Hackers and Humankind is gonna get some information at the Summer Games Fest.
Wait, Sonic Forces? You mean Sonic Frontier?
Sorry, Frontiers. My apologies. Sonic Frontiers is gonna see some information at Summer Games Fest, so I'm gonna have to go watch how loud Jeff Keighley's shoes are, just to and
Didn't he say it's mostly focused on
stuff
existing...
it's stuff that's already announced. So basically, we're not expecting too many world premieres.
Yeah, sorry, I got confused.
That's all. That's all that means. I mean, Soul Hackers has already been announced, but that doesn't mean we're not going to see anything about Soul Hackers. And Persona, Jeff Keighley will always say, "Well, me and Persona were always tight."
But he's through... I
Oh God!
At this point about not getting hyped, because when was the last time anything hype happened at Game Awards? It was probably like the first Smash Bros. Fighter Pass.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, that was for me specifically. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, but in general, I've watched.
I mean, the last Game Awards had Sonic Frontiers' first gameplay and first teaser and the Sonic movie stuff, as far as I remember.
Yeah, but the rest of it, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to set myself up.
Oh no. I never said you had to. It's more like I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna react to it. I'm gonna express my my opinions as per I usually do. Because someone has to. that's the way I look, guys. Like, someone has to. So that's the plan on Thursday. I was going to be playing Strange Man of Paradise, but it depends what time the Jeff Keighley's Loud Shoe show starts. So we'll see. So I'll watch it, and